So hey everyone, welcome to this video collaboration with Luffie Webster. Really glad to be doing this collab with Luffie. Luffie, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? So I have been so obsessed with Metal Gear Solid for most of my life.
Mm.
I think that it's probably my favorite series of all time. I started YouTube about 3 years ago, just kind of doing it, dabbling into it, and then I really started to focus on it about a year ago.
Mm.
And I'm just so grateful to be able to bring more Metal Gear Solid content to all of us, because that's just what I want in my own life.
Yeah, definitely.
So what got you into Metal Gear Solid?
So I guess my earliest memory of Metal Gear Solid was I must have been. So when did the first one come out? I think it came out in '99 in like Europe or in the UK. So
Yeah.
I was born in '92, so I must have been about like what would that make me like around 8 or 7 around the time. And I had this like memory of I was going to see my uncle, and I walked in to his house, and he was playing Metal Gear Solid, the first one, and it was specifically the second boss battle with Sniper Wolf. So like when the snowy
Okay.
trees and stuff.
Yeah.
I just remember like seeing that footage and then seeing a bit of the codec, like the iconic, especially the MGS one, like the green kind of like teal colored
Yeah.
codec screen. And I was just like, what is this? I was like, I'd never seen anything like it. I've played a few games, obviously, by this time, like a bit of Pokemon, things like that. But I was like, what is this? Like, even then, I could just tell it was something
Yeah.
like special. And then I
I
ended
think
up,
that's like everyone's first reaction is like, what is this?
yeah. That's the thing. It's so like, I've spoken to so many people across like my community on the YouTube channel who have said like, like, yeah, and people have started at so many different points in Metal Gear, whether it's 2, 3, 4, even 5, and everyone just says like it's just, it's something special. It just like hooks you in a certain way. And then yeah, eventually I think I had a demo disc of the VR missions game that came with one. So I used to play the hell out of that, and then eventually got my hands on the first Metal Gear Solid. Again, probably like around I must have been 8 or 9 years old, and yeah, just played the hell out of it. Just kept playing it. I think I had one of those, like, I had a rumor that if you play it like 5 times, you unlock Grey Fox as a character, who was like instantly my favorite character. I've even got a T-shirt on today
Yeah.
with
Oh my gosh.
so I'd get Metal Geared up for our collab.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've just been obsessed with it ever since, really. But how about you?
Yeah.
When did you kind of start getting into Metal Gear?
I so I must have been in high school, like early high school, and
Mm.
my little brother brought Metal Gear Solid 2 and Metal Gear Solid 3 home.
Oh my
And I
god!
was like, what is this?
Yeah,
Like, what is this?
two
I want to
amazing
play one of
games.
these because we both played. Yeah, exactly. And he was like, I'm borrowing these, so we can't keep them for a really long time. We have to play them. And I was like, okay, well, which one do you want to play? And he
Mm.
was like, I want to play MGS3. And I was like, okay, well, then I'll play MGS2. And we took turns, and I would play MGS2 and he would play MGS3. And that's how I fell in love with MGS. We kept those games. We did not give them back. So they ended up staying with us forever, which is fine. But I remember playing hours and hours and hours into MGS3 and not understanding the storyline at all
Yeah,
whatsoever.
yeah.
Like, I remember one time my brother told me, he was like, oh, did you know that the snake in MGS2 is actually a clone of the snake in MGS3? And I was like, no, he's not. Like, that doesn't make any sense. That's stupid. No, he's not. So that's how I got into MGS. My little brother stole 2 games from a friend of his, and we ended up playing them for way too long.
Hey, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do to get into Metal Gear Solid.
Yep. Listen, when you're a child, that's why you don't let your friends borrow your games.
Yeah,
You'll
you would
never
never.
see them again.
Yeah, you would never see them, or they're gonna scratch the disc.
Oh
That's how it's
yeah,
gonna go
yeah.
down.
I was never, yeah, exactly. Um,
Oh, that's awesome
well,
though.
that's great. So how did you get into Metal Gear Solid content creation?
Yeah, so as I kind of mentioned in the intro, I think it must have been about 5 years ago when I started my channel, and my first ever video, I'm a big fan of the PS Vita, and I was just one day I was like, I just want to make a video about how good the PS Vita is, and it must have been in like what 2018, 2019 around the time. So I kind of started off with that, had a bit of mild success, and then with my channel, I was just kind of putting out any video I wanted. And then one day I was just like, I'm just going to put out a Metal Gear Solid video because I love talking about Metal Gear Solid. and I think I can't remember what my first Metal Gear Solid video was, but it did like fairly well, you know. I think it was I did a whole video talking about the Snake Tales in MGS2.
Yeah.
I did a whole video just kind of like a bit of a retrospective on that. And it did like pretty good with like views, you know, lots of people were commenting, being like really nice in the comments about the video, and I was kind of like, oh, okay, I think maybe I found like my niche here. And then when I really kind of I did a couple of more videos, and then one day I was listening to, there was a podcast, I believe it's called Shadow Moses Cafe. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's,
Yes, I've heard of them.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think they're still active, but there's one of the hosts, they're called Shane, and they were talking about how they felt this kind of like need to keep Metal Gear Solid alive, because around the time, like up until recently, it's kind of felt quite dormant, you know, Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
And I just like felt that in my soul. I was like, yes, like this series, I don't want this series to just like fade away into like obscurity, which it wouldn't. It's way too like big to do that. But I think everyone was kind of feeling that kind of like pessimism about where the future of Metal Gear Solid, you know, where it was going once, you know, Kojima departed from Konami. So yeah, I just kind of I did a couple more videos that did well, and then this year I was like, right, I'm gonna really try and like dedicate myself to my YouTube channel, and my aim was to try and do like a video every 2 weeks, which I've kind of mostly kept up. I've taken like a little short breaks here and there, just to, you know, to try and not get burnt out. But I've loved it.
Yeah.
I've like met so many good people on my channel. So many just like, it's just nice to know that there's other people out there as passionate about a series as you. And then obviously, then I came across your channel and was like, oh, that's be great to collaboration. So how do you, what kind of like compelled you to make Metal Gear Solid content?
I was actually streaming the entire series of Metal Gear Solid. This was like a couple of years ago over on Twitch. And I became obsessed with it. It gripped me.
Yeah.
And I was looking for more content. You know, it's like you want more.
Yeah.
But like you said, like even, man, it's wild to think about where Metal Gear Solid was just a couple of months ago versus today with all of the announcements of the remakes and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I say like, there wasn't enough content, and I feel silly saying it now because we're about to get so much more content.
Yeah.
So it's just like, oh my gosh, we're fed. But anyway, back in the day, as in a few months ago or a couple years ago, I needed more Metal Gear Solid content, and there's really nothing on, like, there was a few things on YouTube, but I guess I just didn't find the right channels. You know, I didn't see like the content that I was looking for. And so I was like, well, I can't be the only one who wants more Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
So I might as well just make more Metal Gear Solid content, which is why I really try to focus on like answering a question with my videos versus like just talking about the facts of Metal Gear Solid, because that's what I want. I want someone who's gonna like ask questions about the series and then try to answer them or give some kind of like in-depth analysis about something. So that's pretty much how I got into Metal Gear Solid content. I was like, I want more content, and if I'm doing this research, I might as well make it available to everyone else if they want to see it too.
Yeah, no, that's great. I know what you mean though about there being a kind of a lack of YouTube content for Metal Gear Solid. I was kind of shocked. I was kind of shocked as well when I was like, because a channel and this YouTuber, they're really successful these days. I don't know if you ever used to watch or have ever watched Yong Yeah. Does that name ring a bell?
No.
So he used to he was like the Metal Gear Solid guy back in the day.
Oh really?
Yeah, and that's how I kind of like came across him. But then after MGS5 kind of came out, and then obviously Metal Gear kind of started dwindling, he kind of, out of necessity to kind of keep his channel alive, he kind of shifted his channel to, he kind of does more like talking about exposing bad practices in the gaming industry now. That's kind of like his thing, and still a really good channel.
Oh, that's very different from Metal Gear Solid content to pivot like that. That's interesting.
Yeah, just a complete kind of swerve. But he's obviously been very successful. But so yeah, when he kind of turned his channel to into a different direction, I was the same. I was like, who do I go to now for Metal Gear Solid content?
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, there are some like,
Us. Now it's us.
yeah, just us now, yeah.
Go to us.
Yeah, I was like, I'll make it. But I get what you mean,
Yeah.
though. That kind of feeling of like, well, if no one else is going to do this, I'll do it myself. Like,
Yeah.
someone has
Yeah.
to. But
Yeah.
it is weird how like since I've started making videos now, suddenly like I have found like a bunch of channels, not like fair, like quite modest channels in terms of like subscriber counts, which obviously isn't a bad thing. But there, I think the only channel I can think of that is like really huge in Metal Gear Solid is Futura Sound Productions. I think the channel is called.
Yeah.
And they have quite a big. I think they were the other co-hosts on that Shadow Moses Cafe podcast. So
Oh, really?
yeah, I would say they're probably the biggest now. But it would be great. I do wonder now with Delta coming out whether we're going to start seeing the kind of channels coming up again.
Yeah.
For that coming out.
It would be really nice. I mean, not only if we got a little bit of a boost from it, but just see other channels. Like, I think that's what I'm most excited for when it comes to Delta and these like volume. Because I mean, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I've got all of the MGS games. I've got a PS2 still, so I can still play Metal Gear Solid 3. I'm glad to have it on the newer console because I like to have all my games together.
Yeah.
But the thing I'm most excited for is seeing if there's like new channels are going to start popping up, and new content that people are going to start creating about Metal Gear Solid. I think that's going to be really, really exciting to get so many fresh perspectives.
Yeah.
Especially with Delta.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. There's plenty of people out there who probably haven't played a Metal Gear Solid game. Barely even heard of it. So it's going to be interesting to see if Delta will bring in a whole new, like younger fan base to the series. I think.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of questions in from my community, and we'll just go through the list for Luffy here. So the first question comes from Matt Wilson, who I should also mention has a YouTube channel called Master Cube. So if you're into like watching live streams, please go check that out. But Matt asks, should the remakes stick to their classic gameplay?
I think that's like the number one question everyone is debating right now about Delta. I think like I don't think so. I think that they should come up. I don't think that they should use MGS5 gameplay necessarily, just because it might not work with the linear design that is MGS3.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that they should come up with something new. Metal Gear Solid is really good with coming up with new gameplay mechanics every game that always feels better. So I'm excited to see what they come up with Delta, and I think that they should come up with something that's tailor-made to Delta.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think they should definitely try something new, because whilst I love going back and playing Metal Gear Solid games, there are certain areas of 3 which are just maybe haven't aged as well as they could have done. A big one for me is I've never been too much of a fan of the kind of menu navigation of 3, like having to kind of go into a pause menu to change your camouflage and face paint and do the cure system. I wouldn't mind if they found a way to make that a bit more kind of in gameplay, or like with MGS5 how you use like your D-pad to kind of do a lot of like hotkey selection. If there's something they can do with that, I think that'd be great.
Oh, but it's clothes instead of weapons.
yeah.
I need my shirt.
Yeah, just Naked Snake just changing on the fly.
Yeah. I think that could be really, really interesting. I like the menus of MGS3, but I know that they're aggravating to like.
Yeah,
especially because you have to go into them so often.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, if it was kind of every now and then, I think I wouldn't have much of an issue with it. But yeah, like I said, it's so often that you have to go in to change your camo and face paint that I'd personally like to see that modernized in some way if possible. But yeah, I agree. I think you could do some interesting stuff with the gameplay. There is the danger of if you put 5's gameplay into it, it could mess with it could clash with the level design and things like that. But I do hope they come up with a good like middle ground of finding a modern gameplay style that kind of fits in that jungle landscape without completely butchering the layout, so to speak. But I've seen a few people in like the comment sections on my channel Hoping I don't think this will happen, but it would be amazing if they did. You know, like how in Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence, when they introduced the new camera controls, where you could switch either to the classic kind of top view, or you could go to the 360 kind of camera. I've heard a lot of people hoping that they'll do that with the gameplay, where you can switch to like the old school gameplay.
Oh yeah.
In between like old school.
That would be a lot of coding, I feel like.
Oh god, yeah, it would be such a gargantuan task for the development team. So
yeah.
I don't think they'll do it, but if they do, I mean, hey, props to them.
Yeah, I've seen people talk about the PlayStation 5 controller. They'll have to change it some way because the PlayStation 5 controller doesn't have pressure-sensitive buttons in like the O. So when you go to interrogate people and you do half a button press and then accidentally do a full button press and kill them immediately, you can't do that in the PS5 controller. So they'll have to figure out something. I think they'll at least do the interrogation system like MGS5, where you like have like a little wheel of like what you can do. So
yeah, definitely.
But we'll see.
I remember, speaking of the pressure-sensitive buttons, when I got a PS3 recently, and the original controller I got with it broke, the battery broke. So I just purchased like a cheap like third-party controller, and then I was playing MGS3, sorry, and I assumed that it would be pressure-sensitive buttons on this third-party controller, but it wasn't. So I kept trying to interrogate people and just kept like executing them, and I felt really bad.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I guess I went.
Well, at least you have that excuse. At least you have that excuse. You're on a third-party controller. I don't have an excuse. I just didn't have the skill. I was like, I'm gonna interrogate. Oh no.
The
first time I played it, the whole sorrow was just people being like, oh, my neck is tearing me apart. And I was like, I'm sorry. I was trying to interrogate you.
You're like, oh yeah, I remember you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Interrogation try number 271. I know you.
Next question is from Racing Jewel, and they ask, if this MGS movie was ever to be made, who would be your picks for casting roles?
I think my hope, and this is not a requirement for me, but my hope is that whoever plays the role likes MGS. There's this Resident Evil movie that I watched, Welcome to Raccoon City, and the person who plays Chris Redfield loves Resident Evil. Like in the extras, all he talks about is like little minute details. Like he's even like, oh, I know that Chris has like a collar on his vest and we had to take it out for the movie, but like I know, like he like was a super fan. So I think that like it would be nice to have a fan play the role, but that's my only.
Okay, because the director lined up to direct the film is Jordan Vogt Roberts, I believe, who they did one of the King Kong films, Kong Skull Island, and I haven't seen much of their work other than Kong, which I thought was fine, but they are a huge MGS fan. Like you said about interviews, you could just
good
like the interviews that they've given on making the film or developing the film. Like he's so passionate about it, and I'm like, okay. You're I'm happy that you're directing it because you care.
Yeah, it feels like we're in good hands when they like the series.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're in good hands. He likes Metal Gear Solid, so that's awesome.
Like I'd rather someone passionate about it direct it than just some kind of like, well, you're a pretty good director.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you could miss so much of what makes Metal Gear. Like the surrealism and stuff like that. So another question. So Matt Wilson again. AKA Master Cube, asks, do modern perspectives change how players will accept these games, even with fantastic remakes?
I think that like people are going to fall into one of two camps, and I think they've already fallen into it. I think that you make your mind up about this before the game even comes out.
Yeah.
And it's either anti-remake or pro-remake. And I think that the people who are pro-remake will obviously have more of an open mind about it, and maybe perspectives will change.
Yeah.
And if you're anti-remake, you're more against, you're not more likely to accept it when it comes out. So whatever it does, good or bad, it's going to be, taken with a grain of salt. So I think that like people have already decided how they're going to feel about, for the most part.
Yeah.
How they're going to feel about the remake. I know I have pretty much been like, I am open to Delta. Yeah. I'm open to what it may change. I'm open to what it's going to do. I know that we still have the originals to fall back on. If I really don't like it, I can always play the original. And And that's my perspective on it. So
Cool.
I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I think I also wonder if like reading the question like whether so yeah, do you want a perspective change? Yeah, so I think a big one is like what you kind of mentioned about the current Metal Gear fan base will decide now whether they're gonna like the remake or not, or at least try it. I'm quite interested in the idea of like obviously when the games came out they were so innovative and just groundbreaking for the time. Like Metal Gear Solid 1, for example, everyone like a big part of that was like the voice acting
Yeah.
and the cinematic cutscenes and the tragic boss deaths and there's things like that. And obviously each game kind of brought its own innovative aspect to the gaming industry. So I'm interested to see like will now that we're like what in 2023 will those things still hit the same, if you know what I mean, like the voice
Yeah.
acting and stuff like that, because obviously good voice acting is across all games now and as well as cinematic cutscenes. So I wonder if like will what kind of grasped a lot of MGS fans back in the day, will they do that for new MGS fans, or will it be like different aspects of the game that kind of grasp them? I don't know what you think about that.
That's yeah, that's really interesting to bring up actually. Um I think I'm so like yeah, I hadn't even really considered that because I as someone who's played Metal Gear Solid, from since I was a kid, up until now, I'm like these games are amazing. Like of course they're going to grab
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
They grabbed me. Like they're amazing.
Yeah.
But that is a really good point to make of like, these games were innovative when they first came out,
Yeah.
but now other games have already, taken inspiration from Metal Gear Solid and other sources,
Yeah.
and you see a lot of cinematic gameplay in modern games now.
Yeah.
So it's not as like new. It's not
Yeah.
as new.
Yeah.
So I guess my hope is that like despite it not being as new, it still grabs new players and it grabs new perspectives because they're still great. I don't know. I'm biased.
No,
They're still
yeah,
great.
no.
They're still amazing. So but
Yeah.
that is interesting to think about.
Yeah, I'm the same. My hope is that the story and characters are still enough to grab new players. Because
Yeah.
like we've kind of said, a lot of the gameplay stuff is kind of like just quite common now. But I feel like the story, gameplay, just like there's so many aspects of Metal Gear that you can fall in love with, whether it's the it has quite a bit of coolness to it, or it has like lots of campness to it as well, lots of like surreal quirkiness. There's so many things that you can like latch onto with Metal Gear Solid, that I hope that kind of the newer generations will find something in there that they'll latch onto and be like, oh my god, this is such a great like series.
Yeah.
So yeah,
same.
Fingers crossed. So this comes from Truck, and they asked, do you think the public will ever get access to the Fox engine? Obviously, the engine used to kind of like develop MGS5.
That is really interesting. I don't think so.
No, I'm the same. Yeah, I feel like if Konami...
there's no profit in that. I mean, I guess they could like sell it, but I don't see Konami doing that. And also the Fox engine is getting outdated. Like they're going to need a new engine quickly. Like I'm actually surprised they're still using the Fox engine. So one, it's quickly becoming outdated, and two, no, I don't see them making that available.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I think Konami have even said that I'm not sure if it's confirmed or rumored that are they? I don't think they're using the Fox engine for Delta, are they? I think they're using the latest Unreal. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed.
Yeah, I think they're using Unreal.
Oh, okay, yeah. So yeah,
for the very least, maybe they're using it for the demos that they showed on the trailer.
Perhaps, yeah.
But yeah,
no.
But I've heard they're using Unreal also.
Okay, yeah. No, but I can't see it being made public either. It would have been cool. Like, I would have loved to see that. Like, see what other people could have produced using the Fox engine.
It would have been awesome.
Because it's such like a unique engine. Like MGS5, nothing else looks like it to me. Like it has such a unique look.
Yes, it's like, oh my god, I could talk forever about the look of MGS5. MGS5 is so interesting because it's like realistic but also stylized.
Yeah.
Like at first glance you think, oh, it's a realistic game, but it's not. Things are very, very stylized,
Yeah.
just in this like very uniquely subtle way, and I just love it.
Yeah, yeah. It is such a like you said, like that kind of stylized realism, and I love like what it allowed Kojima to do with like the cutscenes as well, like the whole kind of one take moving the camera just gave such a unique feel. And even then, like that style of cinematic now seems, I see that everywhere, like in I don't know if you've played like the recent God of War games, but they kind of use it.
No, but I've heard really good things about the cinematic like stuff.
It kind of has like a whole one take kind of like feel to it, and I feel like it must have been influenced by MGS5 in some way. We've got a question from Their Material Hatred. They ask, do you foresee Konami adding Skullface references in the cutscenes of Delta?
Oh my gosh. I feel like that would be one, the coolest thing ever, but also the most infuriating thing ever, because I was so mad when I found out that Skullface was just doing the same sneaking mission behind us. That doesn't make any sense. And also, Big Boss is supposed to be the coolest, like, stealth person ever. How did he not notice Skullface?
Just like lurking behind him in a bush.
Yeah, he's just like behind you and he's just
like, what's that guy doing?
Picking up your shell casings.
Yeah.
Oh my
just
god.
Cleaning up.
Yeah. So it would be funny to see a Skullface reference, but at the same time, I'd also be like, get out of here.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
What about you?
I would like, if there's like a small reference, I think it could be fun. Like a fun little reference. But if they if they do like a full on, no, we're putting Skullface into this, like he's gonna be like a whole separate story, I'd be totally against that. But if it's just like I don't know, some sigil or something on a carved into a tree, like I don't know, something like that would be cool. Like a fun little reference.
I feel like if Kojima was involved, we would have seen something like that. Like, it would have been like how, you know, in MGS2, when you're in the tanker, if you go really fast to, like, the connecting bridge, you can actually see Solid Snake going across in a box. Yeah. I feel like if, like, he would have done something like that with the mgsdelta, where it's like, if you backtrack, like, 3 screens back really, really fast, you'll find, like, Skullface picking up, like, you know, you can just see him in the background.
Someone sneaking around. That'd be a fun way to do it. Like, something like quirky and fun like that. Next question is from Ardipai, and they ask, what are some things you folks don't want Konami to change about the remake, and what are some things that you think they should change?
I think that I don't want Konami to change anything at all whatsoever. Keep it the same.
You're like,
don't change anything. It's fine. It's perfect the way it is. MGS3 was such like a golden, like every once in a while you strike gold, and MGS3 is one of those games that struck gold. It was just so good, every little aspect of it. So I'm like, don't change anything. And then if I think they should change, no, stop it. You've gone too far. Don't change anything. That's how I feel.
See, yeah.
What about you?
I think like story, dialogue, you know, characters, I think should be left unchanged. Yeah. I've seen a few people kind of like suggest maybe doing a bit more on the boss and Naked Snake's backstory, maybe a bit more development on that. If
that could be cool.
Yeah. For that, it would have to be like Kojima or the old team at least kind of writing that.
Yeah.
I just not sure if I trust someone at Konami to bear that burden to try and flesh out their backstory. But you know, it could be cool. But story, dialogue, and characters should be left untouched. But we as we kind of mentioned earlier, some gameplay aspects I wouldn't mind seeing.
Oh
changed.
yeah.
There's definitely aspects there which I'd like to see updated. But yeah, it's scary, isn't it? It's just like you said, it's such an iconic game, and you know, one that a lot of people consider the best in the series. So the idea of someone coming in and just kind of messing around and changing up things is like terrifying. And it's like, stay away from my baby.
Yes, don't. I think like the sum it up, don't change anything. just modernize.
Yeah,
Modernize the controls,
yeah,
modernize the graphics, make it more accessible,
yeah.
and then that's it. That's
That's
what
all
you
we
can
need to do.
change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, another question from Ardipie actually. So regarding the Master Collection, which games would you want to see included in future volumes?
That's a good question.
Something.
I think what makes the most sense is the next ones in the series. So MGS4, Peace Walker, MGS5, even though you can get MGS5 on
Yeah.
your PS5. So maybe not that one, but those would make the most sense. What I would like to see if I could choose is like Portable Ops because I haven't played it.
Mm.
The Acid games because they look like a lot of fun, and then also Ghost Babel because
Yeah.
it is a gorgeous. I don't know if you've seen. I haven't played Ghost Babel, but I've seen screenshots of it, and it is a gorgeous, gorgeous game.
Oh,
So I would love to have a port of Ghost Babel, like we get Metal Gear 1 and 2. Let's get a port of Ghost
yeah.
Babel in the next volume. So
Yeah, no, that's a really good call actually. I did a live stream a few weeks ago where I was just playing Ghost Babel.
oh my god,
And I should probably do some more of those because I was having a blast. Like it was, I've never
yeah,
completed it myself. I've only like dabbled in it here and there, but it was like a great game. Like
yeah,
for that to be like a Game Boy Color game and what they were able to do with the gameplay and even like the graphics have such a charming art style to them. I would love
yeah.
to see that kind of revived in a master collection as well. That could just be so.
That's like my holy grail game. That's like the game I want to play so bad. Ghost Babel.
Yeah.
It's just gorgeous.
Yeah, I love the idea that it's a completely, well, from what I believe anyway, it's like a completely separate, timeline.
Yeah, it's like a MGS1 retelling
Yeah,
on the Game Boy.
yeah, pretty much, yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, that would be a great one, and like you said, Portable Ops, Acid 1 and 2, 4.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you said, 5 is like one of the most easily accessible MGS games, but I think it'd be great if they could almost remaster it a bit. It looks amazing
Yeah.
anyway, but just to see it improve because I've my PC is luckily a pretty good has a pretty good graphics card, and so I've seen MGS5 with like max graphics settings, and it does look amazing. So I think for modern consoles to have a remastered version of 5 would be great. And the next question is from Ryan Kane. So they ask, do other Metal Gear fans pick and choose certain things to personally reject as canon to the series? As an example, they say, I never liked the idea of Ocelot
Oh my
becoming
goodness.
liquid. So I just tend to ignore that aspect of MGS2 and 4. What do you think about that, Luffy?
Well, Ryan Kane, you're in good company. Same. I
Pretty
tend
much.
to reject all of MGS4, to be honest. MGS4 is not canon to me.
Oh
I
my
know it's
God.
ridiculous, but I don't care. It's not canon to me, so.
Yeah, again, we
I live in the timeline where Liquid was always the ghost,
yeah,
the ghost arm.
yeah, I'm in that timeline as well. Yeah, yeah. That's certainly one thing we agree on with 4 is the Liquid Ocelot revelation is
Yeah.
it's just it feels like a betrayal in some ways. That might sound a bit
Yeah.
dramatic, but it just feels like a.
No, I agree. I agree. It is a
You're like, I
betrayal.
totally agree. Yeah, no, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I reject. I don't think so. I guess again we kind of mentioned it earlier. I think it was in the questions from your community, but yeah, the whole vamp thing, just kind of being nanomachines. So that's something I just reject a bit.
Yeah.
Every time I get to that part, I'm like, oh.
Do you accept the vocal cord parasites?
I love the idea of the vocal cord parasites. Like the concept of, I just like the whole concept of that. I think it's just amazing. Like what it kind of the topic it raises about like imperialism and things like that, but being used as like giving people special powers. I guess I kind of go along with it. It does feel a bit like nanomachine.
Yeah.
in how it's used and how it's used to explain things in 5 quite a bit. I just, yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of like meh on it. How about you?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on the vocal cord?
I like the vocal cord parasites. I
Really?
think that they're really, really interesting and neat. The vocal cord parasites, because I did a video on them, and when I was researching them, before I sat down to like look into them, I was like, these make no sense and they're dumb. Like I
Yeah,
didn't like them.
yeah,
But then I researched how they work, and I was like, oh, these are actually really, really interesting. So I like the vocal cord parasites
yeah.
because they're like really rooted in actual science on how they actually like work in the body. Like they
Okay.
could actually be a real thing,
Oh wow,
which is
interesting.
really cool to me. So yeah. So I thought it was really interesting how they explained. I mean, not the magic powers. You can't get magic powers from a vocal cord parasite, but they could actually like use like infiltrate the human body and like strip away things and like
Yeah,
mess with your genes. Um, so I like them. I think that they're interesting.
yeah.
I just think that I wish we had the end in a bikini. I don't, if we're gonna use the vocal cord parasites and be like, oh, they need to breathe, let the end run around in a bikini too.
It's only
That's
fair,
my only
right? It's
gripe
only
with them.
fair.
Yeah, right. Fair's fair.
I was going to ask, like, speaking of the end, like, do you like that they kind of retconned his abilities with the the parasites?
No, I like the end a lot, and I like that he's just a super old man who's
Yeah,
like sleeping all the time to like keep himself alive so that he can
yeah.
have one final battle. I really like that. And I like that like if you turn off the game in the middle of his fight and then like wait,
Oh,
I
yeah,
think it's a week, he'll die. Like
yeah,
I like all of that, and I don't think that that really meshes with the vocal cord parasites. I think the vocal cord parasites would have kept him alive like they keep Code Talker alive.
yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I agree. Like, that was one retcon where I was like, oh, I don't like that they kind of
Yeah.
like went back and kind of changed his origin a bit because
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of his original origin.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. It made him a little less cool.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you didn't have to explain that.
Yeah.
And then question from Reggie, and they just simply ask, "Are you open to a future of Metal Gear games without Kojima?" Or like, I guess like how do you feel about that kind of?
Oh,
Because now with that we know, Delta
yeah.
has obviously been developed without him.
That's a really polarizing question. I feel like people always have really strong opinions about this.
Yeah,
For me personally, I think making Metal Gear Solid games without Kojima is fine. He has been talking about since like MGS3, one, he doesn't want to make them anymore. And two, he's said multiple times that these games will be made without him and that he's fine with that. Like
yeah,
if he had stronger feelings on it, like if Kojima himself and like the team, because it's not just Kojima, like Kojima slaps his name on everything, so we know his name.
yeah,
But there's like a whole team behind him making Metal Gear Solid. And if him and the team was like, no, this is our baby. People making it without us is like it hurts us. Like we, don't want to see our baby be misused.
mm,
Then I would have a different opinion on it. But no one has ever said that. They've actually said the opposite. Where
yeah,
Kojima is like, someday Metal Gear will be produced by someone not who is not me, and that's fine.
yeah,
So I think that these Metal Gear Solid games, even if they come out with a new one, I think that like it's fine. Like it'll be like the Silent. I don't know if you're a Silent Hill fan, but it'll be like the Silent Hill series where it's like the Silent Hill team made these games, other teams made these games, and you really just have to take them on their own merit.
yeah. Yeah, no, I'm kind of in the same boat. There was a channel. I believe the channel was called Pliskin Boy, who's another like Metal Gear Solid channel, and they made a video which I thought was a very brave video to make, kind of saying like the Metal Gear Solid series will be like perfectly capable without Kojima. And like that's quite like a hot headline to have in your video, and I was like, whoa! And I kind of clicked on it. I was like, I wonder what their kind of evidence or how they're going to back this up. And they were talking about how like when Kojima started getting more control, so to speak, that's when you get like an MGS4, like
Yeah.
stuff like that, where
Yeah.
he has more control. Whereas like from 3 going backwards, like it was a real team effort, those first 3 or so Metal Gear Solid games. And
Yeah.
so, a lot of people do like to say like Kojima is Metal Gear Solid. And I think he is a massive ingredient, a key ingredient to Metal Gear Solid, and they're definitely going to feel different without him. But I think, like you said, like he after 2, I think, wasn't, or around 3, he was kind of done with Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah.
And you can kind of tell as it goes on that he's just tired of this story.
Oh yeah.
So I don't think he'll come back even if it was offered to him. And I think, like, I've played some, like, Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2, and there's another Metal Gear Solid game that's gone out of my head. But there have been Metal Gear Solid games without Kojima's involvement, and whilst they're not the best Metal Gear Solid games, I personally quite like them, and I think I'm cautiously optimistic about this future. I'll see how Delta turns out. If it comes out and it's really good, I'll be a lot more like, okay, they can do this. But if it comes out and it's like riddled with microtransactions and absolutely just butchered, then I'll probably like lose all faith.
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I feel like you said, it was really like a team effort, and as long as you have a strong team behind you, whoever is producing Metal Gear Solid, if they go out to make a new game, they'll still need a strong team to do that. And I think it'll be really obvious, like you said, if they don't have that strong team. So, we'll see.
Yeah, no, definitely. So from Matt Wilson, aka Master Cube, so they ask, will the stealth genre be revived when this remake kind of comes out? I think we kind of touched on this on one of your questions.
Yeah, we did. I think it depends. I don't think a remake is enough to revive a genre. I think you need new blood to revive a genre. So I think it will stabilize the stealth genre a little bit, getting these volume 1s and then the Delta remake. But if we really wanted to see a revival in the stealth, and more importantly, I feel like the infiltration genre, because that's really what Kojima was trying to make when he made Metal Gear Solid. He wanted to make an infiltration game. We need a new Metal Gear Solid. I think that's what will revive the genre.
Yeah.
What about you?
So because I actually made a video on this probably a few months ago now, of talking about like the kind of the death of the stealth genre. And this was just before we knew that the remake was true, and it was very like rumored back then. But I definitely feel like it certainly has taken a huge hit since I feel like it kind of died with MGS5. It was like that kind of came out and it just kind of like died. It was like when Kojima departed Konami, it kind of, he took it with him, and it just like, it was sadly, it kind of disappeared. But I am starting to see signs of like a revival, like, now that we know Delta is coming out, there is Ubisoft are working on a Splinter Cell remake of the first game. So it's weird that there's
really?
Yeah. It was confirmed a few years ago. They haven't said much about it in recent years, but hopefully it's still in development. But it was confirmed a few years ago. And I think an interesting one will be, I'm not like a particularly huge fan of the Assassin's Creed games, but there's a new game called Assassin's Creed Mirage, I believe, which is coming out, and that's returning to like the stealthy roots of Assassin's Creed, like the first kind of game. So I think, based on the success of Delta, a Splinter Cell remake, if it does eventually come out, and this new Assassin's Creed game, I think if all three of those are successful, it'll almost be like a combined effort to at least kind of get some blood back into the stealth genre. Like you said, maybe not completely popularize it again. Maybe it'll take something more than that, but I think it'll be in a better place than it was for the past like 5 years.
Yeah.
5 years or so.
But it might be too that with all of these new remakes that it does bring enough like interest that someone does start producing a new stealth game, which would be really, really interesting, especially if the three giants of the stealth genre really are like Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, and then Metal Gear Solid. So if all three of them are working on projects, they could really like at least give it the gas, so they can start kind of taking off again, which would be really, really interesting. There's this I don't know if you've seen it, it's really sad. There's this video where at the end of, because you're like, really died with the end of MGS5, and it really, really did. There's this video of Splinter Cell, the guy Sam Fisher, being like, "Oh, I'm the only one left," and because he's the only stealth one left. And have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, it's so
it's really sad. It's so sad.
Yeah,
it's so sad. So That was like the first video I thought about too when the remakes came out. I was like, oh my gosh, like Sam Fisher, you're not alone anymore.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting if these three giants come back together and start kind of like revitalizing the
Yeah.
stealth genre because it's so unique. I'd hate to see it fade away.
Same, yeah. It's by far my favorite genre of games, and you know, I like a lot of genres of video games. We kind of mentioned Silent Hill and Resident Evil earlier on. Like I love survival horror. It's like another one of my favorite genres.
Yeah.
And that's had a huge revival, like especially this year. Like survival
Oh yeah.
horror is like back, like it's like a new
Yes, yeah.
golden age. So
Yeah.
that's given me hope because I remember back in the day when like it was like Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6, and I was like survival horror's dead, like it's gone, like it died with those games.
That's how I felt too. And then Resident Evil 7 came along.
Yeah, I was like, yes,
yes, yeah.
the savior. But yeah, it gives me hope for the stealth genre to think that like, okay, the survival horror genre was in a bad state at one point, and now it's back, maybe stronger than ever, you could say.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed, the same thing happens for stealth or infiltration.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hopefully.
it would be really cool, especially because when these genres come together and they start pumping things up, you never know what you're going to get from, another company that's like, oh, stealth is popular now. Like, that's how we got Resident Evil in the first place, was that Alone in the Dark was so popular, and Resident Evil was like, but then Alone in the Dark couldn't capture whatever they got in a bottle, and they started to peter off. But Resident Evil was like, no, this like survival horror is like a thing. Like this can be a really great thing, and then that's how we got Resident Evil. So who knows? Maybe when these stealth giants come back together, we'll get Stealthy McGee, and it'll go, it'll take over the landscape. I don't know. So,
I hope it's called Stealthy McGee as well. That's an amazing
trademark.
name.
I'll give it away. That's free. Call it Stealthy McGee.
If it brings back the genre, they can have it.
Yeah, if it brings back the genre, Stealthy McGee.
Oh, brilliant. Well, that's the end of my questions anyway. And yeah, so thank you to my community for the questions, and thank you, Luffy, for agreeing to do this collab. It's just been a blast just talking Metal Gear Solid with someone as passionate about it as I am. And yeah, go check out Luffy's channel. It's just Luffy Webster. Really great Metal Gear Solid content on there. Really like lots of fun videos as well. Really good, just like talking points of Metal Gear Solid. So go check out their channel. And yeah, thanks again, Luffy, for joining me on this video.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone have a good rest of your day, and I will catch you all in the next one.
See you guys.